One thing that you'll notice in the media is that almost every single article out there talks about year over year single family rents. And for example, so when you look at year over year, that doesn't tell you very much when there's an inflection point. Now, this data set that I'm showing here is not what you typically see in the media. This is the CoreLogic Single Family Rent Index, but on a monthly basis. So what this enables you to do, and they don't typically distribute this data, I had to ask them for it and then made my own graph, is that rents actually peaked back in September, and we started to enter an inflection point. So what that means is that even though the articles out there in the media and on social are saying rents are still going up at a slower pace, it misses the point that rents have actually been going down. And this is at the national level. You'll see in certain markets it's going down more, some it's barely going down at all. And I'll give you an example of that in a minute too. But if you were only looking at year over year data, you would be 6 to 8 months late noticing that there was even an inflection point where rents were actually going down. So it's really important to look at month over month. Now, I will say too, that even though we see this this trend continuing for another couple of months, we are expecting to see another inflection point turning upward anytime now. So probably by April or May, we're going to see rents going up, and that's the typical season, right? But then we'll probably see another slight pullback in the following winter, as is typical. So it kind of goes back to the historical trends in seasonality, like you see going up and down on the graph in prior years. So, and what's cool about this CoreLogic data set, what I really like about working with it, is that it's paired rent data. In other words, they're taking out differences in product and location and how well maintained the property is and things like that, by using the same property at two different points in time. And that makes it very, very useful in really kind of seeing what the trends are. If you just look at averages, again, you're going to miss the boat. So here's an example too of something that's bucking the trend. I noted that some markets and sub-markets are doing better, some are doing worse. Here's Orlando. And this is, again, that CoreLogic Single Family Rent Index. And what it shows that there's only been a tiny dip in rents following a gargantuan run-up in rents in that market. I will say, too, that we've done single-family built-for-rent studies in markets outside the Sun Belt, and we're seeing pretty strong results there. We're seeing very strong rents for single-family built-for-rent in Kansas City and in Minneapolis. You can rent. I've got some examples of clients of ours that have done studies out there and successfully opened small single-family homes renting at $5,000 a month. Here's a success story that's in a sort of what some might consider a secondary or even tertiary market. And what this is showing is that even during the very slow period we were just talking about between August and February, they leased 64 units out of their 77 total for 10.7 leases a month while raising rents. And this location is 25 miles outside of Savannah. So what we're seeing is strength in places where you wouldn't necessarily expect to see strength. And this was one, too, where the client said that we nailed it. We did the study for them. Then they went to market, opened up, and the client said that we were dead on about what the rents would be. I would say that the rent growth was a nice outcome as well. Now, the next thing I want to cover is the volume of built for rent. And again, if you look at what's in the media, 95 to 99% of the articles are all just using some Census Bureau data, which I'm showing here. And this is from a press release from the National Association of Home Builders. Robert Dietz is the chief economist there, and he does a good job. What he's showing here is the Census Bureau numbers on single family built for rent. And you'll hear that it's running at, 60,000 units a year or something like that. But that number is actually way too low. In other words, the Census Bureau number doesn't include all of the built for rent. And in fact, I'm going to zoom in here on this note. This is right in the NHB release. The estimates that the Census Bureau is coming out with exclude homes that are sold to another party for rental purposes. Hello, that's the majority of what's being done in build for rent. NAHB goes on and says they estimate that's another 5% of single family starts. So, 50, 60,000 more on top. And that lines up very well with our estimate. And we've been saying for a long time that, we predicted 120,000 single family built for rent starts nationwide in the year 2022. Turned out to be pretty much exactly that number. We're predicting that it's in the 130,000 range this year, and then it's going to go up even faster in the next few years. So again, very bullish. All this activity, all these starts are resulting in homes that are getting leased up very rapidly. The releasing rate is slower right now because of recession fears, but come this time next year, I think you'll start to see, especially into the summer of 2024, I think you're going to see much stronger lease ups, and we'll be back to rent growth again. When we do our studies, we use a 4-point, 4-spoke methodology for establishing what the rents can be in any given submarket or location. And we start with single family SFR rents, the scattered homes, including those owned by the big aggregators and institutions. Of course, you make some adjustments to those. You have to. Then you have BFR comps, if there are any in that market, and you have the multifamily comps. And then very importantly, this is what I'm leading to, is the for sale comps. In other words, on a monthly basis, how much would you pay to own a home in that market? And this is the way that we represent that in our studies, and it's become very important. That's the reason I want to bring this to your attention now. So we compare the monthly cost of ownership with the proposed rents, and we're using new build examples, Lennar, D.R. Horton, whoever it is that's in that market area. And the blue bar represents what it would cost to own. The red line indicates what we came up with for this study for the single family built for rents. And then you can see the gap between the two. So when you see that there's a delta between the cost to own and the rents, that gives the reader of the report the reassurance to know, okay, this feels safe that we're not bumping up against the cost to own. And obviously, this is becoming a more important issue now. The higher level of mortgage rates as one of the key macro trends that is at play, although higher interest rates are making it tougher to make deals work from a cap rate basis and just the cost of capital, it's making it easier to establish that rent is going to be strong and rents are going to eventually get back to growing. Plus, we see very strong data indicating that renters' incomes are growing much faster than incomes of the population at large. A lot of hay is being made by naysayers that, hey, wage growth is slow right now, but for people in that age 27 to 34 cohort, they're advancing in their careers and their incomes are moving up at double-digit rates, or at least they were up until this sort of fear about the economy and so on. I think that their pay is still going up at that rate, but they're just getting nervous from the standpoint of just confidence about, maybe if they're living with roommates, breaking off from having roommates and getting their own place. But I think that's going to turn in a positive direction fairly soon. So this will be my last slide, just showing our forecast of built for rent production. It kind of shows the vertical line shows the dividing line between historical data and what we're forecasting. We are expecting this year to see starts back off amid the cost of capital concerns and concerns about the economy. But by 2024, we see built for rent production rising, and all of this product is going to get absorbed. I think that it's going to get absorbed as fast as it can be delivered. So that concludes my summary of just at a high level what we're seeing in the market. And back to Michael.
Yeah, that's fascinating. We're all lucky to have you as part of this product council, Brad, because you're kind of you're reporting on something that touches every single person in the product council here.